Okay. Good morning. Good morning, world. My name is Rochelle. I'm the pharmacist at Seasons Pharmacy in Culinaria, and I'm here today with my good friend Anne-Marie Mawhiney. And we're here to talk about her new book, which is this one, Fugitive Rifts. Anne-Marie.
So I'd like to thank you for having me here. Seasons Pharmacy in Culinaria is on Lawrence Street, and it's a happening place. You're apt to hear people coming in. They're shopping for prescriptions, consulting the pharmacist, shopping for food that is here, and some of us are being interviewed about a local author, in my case. It's a real happening place. Some people wonder why I'm holding an event at a pharmacy. One person referred to it as, I think it'll be an adventure, and it will be. But if you can come here on November 29th from 3 to 4, I'd be happy to talk to you about my new book. And if you're interested in buying, we'll have copies here and sign. But do pop by and have a look at this place if you haven't been here before.
So it's interesting. Yeah, we are in a pharmacy. It's kind of a bizarro thing, maybe, to be doing book launches in pharmacy. But listen, um, I think it's pretty cool when somebody who's in our community does something big like write a book and finish one. And actually, for you, this is your third book.
It is.
And we met here at the pharmacy during the
Yes.
pandemic. And I remember at that time we were delivering groceries out to your vehicle, I think. And I we were just sort of asking what you've been up to because you're out on your lake at Panache quite a bit.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you were working on a book. And I said to you, well, when you finish that book, let's celebrate and let's have a party. And so we have a lot of space here at the pharmacy, and we had a book launch for you. And I'm so impressed, and I am very fascinated. I'm going to ask you some questions about what that process is like about writing and finishing a book. But yeah, walk us through how you became an author because you worked at Laurentian for a lot of your career and you
Yes.
did a lot of things. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up being an author.
So I was at Laurentian University for almost 40 years, and I retired in 2018. When I was about 8 years old, according to my parents, I told them I wanted to be a poet and an author. And I wrote rather dark poetry. I still have copies of them. Um, and then wrote all the way through high school. And when I started my social work education at university, I quit writing. And then 50 years later, a long time later, the pandemic occurred. And in the first lockdown, I knew I had to do something other than just watch TV. I mean, we were still learning if we could even go outside for walks in the very first days. And I dusted off an old laptop, and what came out of my fingers, which I thought would be journaling, was the beginning of my first book, Spindrifts. And I was kind of shocked by that and decided I'm going to keep going and see what happens. I
What was that line?
uh, when she awoke that day, it was with joy in her heart. And seasoned authors and editors tell you never start a chapter or a book with someone waking up. Uh, I didn't know that until it was too late. So I kind of snuck out with my dog, went for a short walk close to the house. And when I came back, I had no clue who she was. I had no clue why she was happy. And it kind of came to me that, oh, her great granddaughter's coming back from an immersive kind of education. And she hasn't seen her beloved great granddaughter for 2 years, and she's looking forward to that.
It's interesting that during the pandemic, in a really uncertain time, that was the line that came out of your fingers. Something with joy in your heart. So I think I'd want to write a book like that too if I was full of uncertainty. I think.
Yes, well, and the book takes place in the land of hope, which sounds a bit hokey, but in that time period, I wanted it to be situated in a place of hope. And the territories, it's a futuristic fantasy science fiction, and I called it Land of Hope. And people seem to like that.
And I think you said it was also, well, it's also based in the Sudbury region, but far ahead into the future.
50 years from the first lockdown, roughly, sort of in the lively area. Um, but it really could be any part of the world. People from other countries who have read the book thought they knew where it was near where they were in a rural type area.
And what's interesting about the Sudbury landscape, because I think this sort of hits, you talk about a land of hope, and we look at the regreening of Sudbury over
Mm-hmm.
the last 50 years. Well, I'm 55. When I was born in 1970, it was pretty black and hopeless, and I had the fortunate opportunity to travel quite a bit. I always lived in Sudbury, but I was traveling, and it's like all of a sudden I'd be driving home. I'm like, where's all the black rocks? Like the black rocks are covered with a green layer now, and I think that's a really fascinating element that sort of ties its way into some of that.
I wasn't conscious of it at the time totally, but in fact, Spindrifts was inspired by the regreening. And I forecasted because we've come a long way here in Sudbury, but we also have more work to do. And so I forecasted maybe in another 50 years, things will be even better, and more people from other parts of the world would come here to learn how to regreen and rehabilitate land because they're outside of the book in those 50 years, something horrible happened and it changed the world. So that the values and ways of living and the collaboration throughout the whole of Earth have shifted to one where everybody's working together to save Earth. Because if they don't save Earth, everything's going to perish.
It's interesting because it brings forth those themes of like the calamity of the human invention, and
Yeah.
then the beautiful healing capacity of the human invention. Also,
Yes.
it's like there's great power in all directions, right? It depends on how you're going to harness that energy. But in a line like she awoke with great joy in her heart, it's a good place to start. So you were writing that book, and I remember kind of touching base with you every once in a while, and you finishing the book. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about. I would like to talk about this at some point, but how did you publish that book, and what did you learn about publishing? And maybe you can describe a little bit to people in case somebody there's got a book at their fingertips. How did that process of becoming published and selling your book and becoming a more well-known author? What's the process of that coming from a small place like Sudbury?
So the summer of 2022, Humber College in Southern Ontario was offering their annual writers' workshop virtually because of COVID. And I learned about it and I signed up. And one of the sessions was how to get your book published. And what I learned from a very seasoned um, agent and from a seasoned publisher was it's a long hill to climb of 5 to 10 years if you haven't published fiction, either in magazines, short stories, and poetry, if you don't have a track record in the genre that you want published. I had a small track record as an academic for publications. That's a total different gig, and there's no way that that would help me get the attention. And in the meantime, I was talking to a cousin who's an author, and he said, check out Friesen Press. So I Googled them. There was a download um, how to get published. And the next day, somebody called me and just said, just touching base, I noticed you had to give some information. It was soft, soft sell. I felt no pressure. We chatted a couple of times through 6 months, and I felt an urgency to get Spindrifts out to the world. And so I signed the contract, and I'm self published, and I've used editing, um, design, proofreading, promotion, and they do the actual getting the copyright and all the technical parts, the ISBNs. And like any other publisher, I pay for those services just as a traditional one wants authors to have all those services as well. And I'm really glad I did, because it took it out of my hands. Everything was um, smoothed out. And then part of my contract included promotions and use of social media. And I am a total introvert, and I was very reluctant to kind of plunge in. I only kind of played around the edges with that. But James, my promotions consultant, was excellent at guiding me and coaching me and showing me techniques and giving me some examples of things that other authors did that were successful and were public. Um, and at this point, I feel pretty competent at getting word out through various forms of social media. So for me, Prison Press has been a very good partnership, and they've published all three of my, or I've published with their services all three of my books.
So where have your books landed? How does this play out?
Okay, there's some mystery to this. Like part of what happens is my books are uploaded to 50,000 book stores all over the world, not necessarily on the shelves, but people can go in and order them and they show up fairly quickly, usually. Um, and I get analytics about 6 to 8 weeks after purchases. And consistently, I've had books purchased, obviously in Canada and the US, but also the UK, Italy, Germany, Australia, and India, if I didn't say that. Now, I can account for friends in a couple of those places, but a lot of those places I know nobody. And I'm not sure, except through my social media, how they came across, even hearing about the books. But I'm very appreciative of the fact that I can say that my books have gone well beyond locality. I get a lot of support in Sudbury as a local author. And on social media, I'm now part of a very extensive network of traditionally published and self published authors from all over the world. And it's an amazingly supportive community where we help each other out to promote our books. And I've received some feedback that has always been really helpful. We do reviews for each other and beta reads. So unexpectedly, from my initial fears, um, social media has really been a big part of my life.
Well, it's interesting if you think about publishing and people's access to getting their information out. Like your book, pretty, I'm not going to say easy, but kind of like a user friendly, um, easy way to get it out there. And look at us, like we're doing an interview today, we just have a camera. So, like, it's very, I don't want to use the word democratic, but it's kind of democratic.
Yes,
like
it is.
anybody can publish anything, and anybody looking for that information can find it, So I think it's pretty fascinating.
And a lot of self publishers do get people to edit, and then they do all the technical part of the self-publication through online stores. So they do the technical part of converting it into the design that the store wants, and they upload it. And so, except for the cost of editing and some technical assistance, like it doesn't really cost very much.
Yeah, it's like fascinating. I want to show pictures of so people can see what the other copies of your books look like. So we can have a look at.
So the pink one is the first one, Spindrifts, published in 2021. The second one is Spelldrifts, published in 2023. In fact, Spindrift's fourth birthday was November 15th.
Okay, that just happened.
And my new book, published this summer, is Fugitive Rifts. And it is not a continuation of the other two, who are linked by 20 years and a new generation, but can be read separately. You don't have to read both of them. Fugitive Rifts is a coming of age in real time starting 2025 and going forward to about 2030. And it's about four teens who are invited to be part of a debate team, and not one of them thinks that that's a great idea. They're quite reluctant about it. But they kind of go along with it. It takes place in a small made up community in the interior of BC for the first half. They each character faces enormous and life changing challenges, and the book is about how community and friendship and even uh, horrible disaster can pull people together, can help form resilience, and even though lives change in ways that people never imagined, life does go on, and it can actually change the community and perhaps even change the world with the actions of people who kind of look around and see a new thing that they could contribute, that has heart for them. Partway through, one of the four characters disappears. And although the readers get to follow their stories, the other three don't even know if that person is still alive or not. Um, and then the second half of the book takes place in other parts of British Columbia, where various big events happen to the individuals, to communities, and to uh, actually start to change things throughout the world. All of my books have themes about climate change, social issues, um, and I I want to inspire people and to give hope that change can transform lives.
For sure. For sure. Why BC? Why'd you catapult the next story to BC?
Well, there's a big disaster that happens, and I couldn't face it happening here.
Oh,
So I moved it someplace far away where my friends and relatives who live in that area will not be happy. But it is fiction, and you know, it ends out well for most people. And the made up town in the interior is based on a small community of 4,000 where my aunt lives. And my sister and I go out and visit her fairly regularly. And I have an affection for the Kootenay area,
yeah, it's
so I
beautiful.
wanted to situate part of the book there.
So how does that work? So you get this inspiration, you make your first book, and then your second book is sort of tied to their second book is tied to the first book, and then your third book is a completely different thing. So what do you see as the creative process? Like what where does the inspiration come from, and how do you know what to act on?
Okay, so when I wrote my first book, I was one and done. And then two young girls said about 6 months later, you have to write a second one, and you have to put a dragon and a wolf in it. The first book wasn't the least bit that kind of fantasy, so I had to think up a backstory. That took a while. Um, and then when I was done that, I made sure I tied up all the loose ends in that world. And I decided they are now two and done. And within
Is
about,
this like getting tattoos? It seems like
I
if you
don't
get a
know
tattoo,
about
you get
that.
more than one tattoo. I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Me neither. I don't have any tattoos. I just watch other people.
But I'm in a writers group and we critique each other's writing, although we also do other activities. And I thought, well, I kind of want to stay with them. So I thought I would start writing maybe short stories. But then I decided I wanted to write something more real time, rooted in reality, almost all of it. And some ideas started to come. Sometimes it was a dream, sometimes I'd be out walking and an idea would come. And I had no clue how it would, if it even would all tie together. A friend who has read the book says four parts of my life are reflected in, like, in each character reflects a part of my life. And that's certainly true, although I hadn't, when she first said it, I thought, I don't think so. And then I thought, yeah, she's absolutely right. Um, so that became an interesting way to create characters, although I wasn't conscious of it at the time. And I'm a pantster. Some people map out. One of my writing colleagues, who's a friend now, um, has a multi part series called the Drowned Kingdom Saga, and it was all mapped out. The characters sometimes take over even when things are all mapped out, but he knew exactly how everything would fold, what book one through to we're on book five coming up, um, would be about. I'm a pantster, which means I sit down and just like that first line in the first book, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. And I keep writing, and sometimes I write like from beginning to end. Sometimes something will come and I know it's not in order. And then at the end, things can get shifted around and some things get taken out. Some things I like and I expand. And then through beta reading, I get feedback about what works and doesn't, which every author tends to use from other authors. Um, and then I do rewriting. I probably rewrite about 10 to 12 times
Oh
before
wow.
it goes to editing. Maybe more, depending how you um, define rewriting.
So do you sit at your computer every day and say, okay, today it's 8 o'clock. I had breakfast. It's 8:30. Now I'm going to write my book, and I'm going to sit here until 3. Like, what do you do? Do you wait for inspiration to come, or do you have a schedule? How do you actually finish the thing?
I'm a little bit like some of the movies that we see about famous composers, where, where they just are at the table and they're writing and they're oblivious to everything. I get a bit immersed like that.
Yeah.
I might wake up in the middle of the night and have to write a little bit. I get up, I'll have breakfast. Sometimes I go for a walk, but if I'm ready to go, I just write. And my partner Dave will kind of peek in every so often and kind of rattle in the kitchen at lunchtime. And then I
That's your
realize,
cue.
oh,
I better
it's
eat
time to
something.
eat. And at supper, he'll actually come and get me and say, supper's ready.
Is he lonely? Was he lonely when you were writing these books?
He's never, ever complained about it. He has a pretty
Yeah.
good life. He's an athlete. Um, and goes
So he's
to the
busy.
Y a lot, and he has
He's busy.
friends, and his family's in town. So we're both pretty independent um, in our zones. And I think at first he was just completely baffled by this
This is
side
your
of me.
retirement plan. You didn't know that was the retirement plan.
Yeah, well, of course, COVID happened. That wasn't
Yeah.
in the retirement plan either.
No, for sure.
But like he's just been so supportive of my writing and
Amazing.
respectful of it. I dedicated my first book to him because of how awesome he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go back to writing and he'd say good night, and I might say good night back if I
Yeah.
heard him. And all of a sudden it might be midnight. Then the next day I wouldn't be as productive. Um, and sometimes, actually, with Fugitive Rifts, I was able to write a little bit more structured morning, take a break, go for a walk, write in the afternoon, sometimes write evenings. Um, but because my world wasn't in a pandemic, and I also have social media things that I do for the books that have been published, those breaks were crucial to attend to other things and
Yeah,
to
for
health,
sure.
to health
Yeah,
as
well,
well,
health is one of the most important things.
and to visit friends. I Because of the pandemic, we weren't visiting then, but now I like
Make
to
your point
keep.
to do that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So we're going to have a celebration of your book again on the 29th of November. That's in a couple of weeks. Today is 16th, 17th of November. So not this weekend, but next weekend on Saturday. We're going to have some snacks and some tea here. We're going to be set up at the harvest table at the back group. And we'll be celebrating your book. So there'll be copies. Anne-Marie's quite happy to sign these. I have these books for sale here. Where else in Sudbury can you get these books?
You can get Fugitive Rifts and Spell Drifts, the blue one, at Indigo. They're on the local authors rack. Books and Beans sells them as well, and Seasons Pharmacy and Culinara. Um, and that level of community support is really, really crucial.
And Christmas is coming. It's a good time to buy books for people. You know, something's gonna have a little break. You're maybe gonna go on vacation in February to get away from the cold. It's a good time to bring a book to read on the airplane. Instead of watching a movie, you could get immersed in one of these wonderful stories that Anne-Marie has taken the time to write. Or sitting on a beach, you get to swim sometimes, and then lay in the sun and catch some vitamin D and read some stories. So that's something to think about too for the winter time.
Young people, probably 15 and older, I've had really heartfelt comments by some of them. Um, it's kind of from 15 upwards. Uh, some readers have read it at 12 and have loved it. Um, and so they're really a good grandparents present. People out west have sent them to their grandchildren.
Nice.
Somebody I know in the UK has has daughters that are teenagers, and they've read them. Um, so really, if you want more information, search for my website under my name, ammawhiney.ca, www.ammawhiney.ca. You'll get a little bit more flavor, but there's no pressure to buy unless you really want to. If you just want to come by and say hi and have a look and think about it, that's perfectly okay too.
Well, we'll put these books on the. We have an online store. I'm not sure if they're on there. I don't know. We're trying to keep up with our online store, but when we put them on the online store. I'm going to put a link to your website right from
Okay,
it, so there's more
perfect.
information to be found there. Well, I thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for coming in today and explaining, especially the process. I think that sometimes people have an idea in their head and then they don't think they can do it. And I think one of the things I really want to bring out of these kind of interviews with these local people who finish some of their projects is like, it may never have been your intention to be an author. Well, it was at 8, but then you did something else for
Yeah,
50 years.
yeah,
But that it's possible to do, and it's not as difficult as it might look. It's probably difficult, but you've done it, and now you cracked the seal, and now you've done it 3 times. So you're making it look easy, even though it might not be easy. But I feel like it's a very, if people need an example to draw from, I think it's a really beautiful example that you've said, and I'm really proud of you
thank
for
you.
doing it. It's pretty
Thank you.
amazing.
If
And
if you've always wanted to write, if you've always wanted to paint, and you can carve out time to do that, give it a try. Like something that you dream of doing outside of work and outside of family, and you can carve out that time. I know there's time in the life cycle when you can't. I waited till I retired, but it's not necessarily what everybody has to do. Carve out a bit of time and get started. You will find in the arts a really welcoming community that will help you and guide you and support you. And I really recommend it.
it's been really interesting for me actually, because we met and we started this book signing thing. And then now I've met so many authors, and
Mhm.
we've done some book signing with other authors. And now I have like this little bookshelf. I think there's one, two, three. There's like at least 10 books from
Mhm.
people who are in Sudbury who've written pretty interesting, amazing. Some is nonfiction, some is fiction, some is um, sort of the story of their life experience so far, and they're pretty interesting. And I love having interviews with local artists. And the more I live in this town and the more time I spend here, the more I'm just fascinated by, oh, I just didn't think anything was happening in Sudbury. But there's a lot of things happening in Sudbury. There's a lot of really interesting art type people. And listen, you could be in a, like, I count pills for a living. I'm a pharmacist, but I feel like I have a creative outlet, and I appreciate that creative outlet, and I look for inspiration from other people for permission and encouragement, to explore that other side. So, as a human being, we're on a life journey. Um, and it's really interesting if you have a bit of an open mind and a belief in yourself, what you can maybe accomplish.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is becoming a tradition, and
Yeah.
it's one that I really value. Um, and if you can't come on the 29th, the books are here. You can pop in or at one of the other stores if we've piqued your interest, but you have other plans that day.
And she'll
Um,
sign it. So if you buy it and leave it here, I'll call her and tell her to come in, and she can sign a personalized message in it. And that's always nice to give a book
yeah,
that has the author's signature in it. I think
happy
those
to.
books have more value than the just the other ones, because the love and attention of that person has been spread onto you for a moment in time.
Yes.
All right. Well, all the best, Emery. We'll be back on the 29th. And certainly, if anybody has any questions, you can phone us. Our phone number is 705-222-2200. And we're located at 815 Lawrence Street in Sudbury. And that event is happening on the 29th of November, which is in 10 days' time or so, um, right here at the pharmacy. So we look forward to seeing you
From
then
3 to 4.
from 3 to 4. Okay. Bye bye.
That went
Okay.